I worked on this piece yesterday for artists in residence. It's a group that offers live classes or live workshops. And I only got this far. So what I did is I put charcoal down and then I used some gesso and I used a local brand, acrylic gesso. This is by Dala. And I mixed it with another brand, Zelen. This has got a little bit more grit in it, so it's got quite a lot of texture. And then what I did is, once I'd smeared all the charcoal, I put a little bit of ink over the top, this ochre ink, and I've started drawing into it. So the light areas here are Posca, but this is the Posca that I did most of the drawing with yesterday. So I've looked at my image, and what I've done is I've slightly tilted the face, but it doesn't matter. So the face in the reference is looking more straight on. I've lifted the eye slightly, and I've got that face tilting. But I'm not too worried about it, because in the end, it's the drawing that counts and the experience of doing the drawing, not actually the reference image. The reference image is exactly that. It's just a reference image. Once you've sealed everything with the gesso, you can actually work on top of it with any medium. Yesterday, one of the class members had an issue with the charcoal sticking, and I suggested that you just use some artist fixative and put it over the surface. And then if that doesn't work, shift from your charcoals to colored pencils. So you can use any brand of colored pencils and work into the artwork. I'm going to go a bit with charcoal again. So I've got these woodless charcoal pencils, and I'm just going to start working with these. And it is adhering quite nicely. As I was drawing yesterday, oh, excuse me, this frog in my throat, I realized that I was battling with this nose. I have drawn it before, but it's difficult, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's the shadows or the angle or what it is. I was drawn to this particular face because of the drama in it. It's quite a dramatic looking image. And in this Concertina book, this is a handmade Concertina book, I wanted this figure to be the central figure, so the most dramatic. And I thought that charcoal would be the ideal medium. The session that I teach on making marks is, it's early in the morning. The brain hasn't kicked in yet. So the session that I teach on Artist in Residence, called Making Marks with Joan, and that's my name. And I teach for an hour live. I really thought that I would get this drawing done in an hour, and I just battled. I don't know if I was talking too much about other things or what happened, but I battled. I definitely got this nose wrong yesterday. So I was trying to put the nostril a little bit too low down. It's amazing when you come back to a drawing after leaving it. So this was left overnight. How things change. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to have breaks. She's got this deep shadow next to her lips. It's also a difficult thing to draw. So I'm hoping I'm going to manage to capture that. I think I've made it too big. I do have a tortillon or a smudging stick, and this is quite nice for unifying and spreading the charcoal. And I should have used this yesterday, and I didn't. I had so much material art materials on my desk. It was difficult to find anything. I know that sounds absolutely bizarre, but I put too much stuff out. I'm always frightened that I'm not going to have enough equipment, and I end up with a crazy amount of just items on my desk, and then I can't find anything. So yeah, it's mad. And I was saying yesterday that when I look at other artists' desks or photographs of their desks, and the desks are ordered and beautifully laid out, and then I look at my desk after a session, and it looks like a tornado's gone off in my room. I mean, it really is insane. So the values are coming up, but she looks a bit like she's got a moustache on the go there, so I need to erase into that. And the perfect thing is these little erasers. So very useful for drawing. Except I think I've sealed too much underneath, so I'm going to have to use another medium for working into this. These charcoal pencils are quite wonderful when you want to do a little bit more refined work. When I started charcoal drawing, I normally always work with willow, and it's quite forgiving. So it's easy to erase. So it's a nice way to start a charcoal drawing, and then you can shift to the more precise instruments like these charcoal pencils. It's wonderfully quiet right now outside. There doesn't seem to be any noise whatsoever. But we have a man who comes around with one of those, excuse me, awful leaf blowers. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get this drawing done before the man arrives with his leaf blower. She's actually got quite a wide jaw, which is probably wider than I've drawn it here. So I'm going to slightly widen it. And I probably won't be able to erase this bit on the inside because I think I've gone and I've sealed it. So let's see. Yeah, it's fine. But I'm going to work with another medium over it. And I was saying in my class, I love this technique because it adds a softness to my work. I've got a tendency to draw quite hard and almost in an illustrative way. And then with the smearing of the charcoal with the gesso, it just creates a softer effect in my work. And unexpected things happen. So I quite like, and she's got more hair, I quite like when I can't control every single thing in my work. I quite like it when the material does stuff and then I've actually got to shift the way I think or the way I'd approach a drawing because of the way that the art material has behaved on the surface. I'm going to pick up that smudger again. Quite interesting how the charcoal is behaving differently on paper. And this pinky surface is gouache. So the charcoal seems to like the gouache quite a lot. I've used an artist fixative and sealed this whole surface, and now I can pick up other media like Poscas or paint, and I can start working into this with other media. So I'm going to pick up my Poscas and I'm going to start working into this portrait. Okay, that's a little bit strong, so I have just softened it by using my finger. And in fact, I think I'm going to pick up the beige Posca because that white is very strong. I don't mind that light on top of the eyelid. I think that's actually quite cool, but I don't want anything to get too strong at this stage. What I've done is I've put tissue paper as, well, printed tissue paper, it's a jelly print, onto this background of this portrait. And yeah, the transition from the jelly print to the portrait is not really fantastic. I've just picked up a dark colored pencil. So I think what I might do is collage more of that perhaps into her hair, just so that there's not this harsh line that is running across the top there, and that it integrates with the portrait a little bit more. There are some little bits that are tearing. Okay, so I've got to make a decision about that. I need to maybe glue it down, but I'll probably do that later. Or work more into it. Okay, I think I'm just going to tear a little bit off, and then I'm just going to tear a strip. And I'll deal with that later. Yeah, I just had the transition from this is doing the same thing here as well. So I might just tear a bit of that. Yeah, this feels better. It was just very thick at the bottom, and I think it's because I put 2 layers down. You can see the lighter layers underneath. And this is a Pitt Artist pen, Faber-Castell, and it's a warm grey. And instead of using this, you can substitute any brush pen, or you can use a fine liner and draw into your portrait. I'm sorry about the reflections. The reflections are a little bit weird. My studio's in, well, it's basically a single garage, and it is attached to a house. And I needed the extra space, so we just converted the garage into a studio space. But the lighting is really, really bad. I've got tiny windows. And so what we did is we put some really hectic fluorescent lights up so that I could actually see what I was doing. But as a result, it creates lots of reflections in the room. And then when something is shiny, you do get this harsh reflections on camera. I've got a Sharpie here as well, so a Sharpie will be quite nice for coloring big areas of black. Or I could go in with the charcoal again. I think the colored pencil is probably just helping to take some of that shininess down. And I still haven't dealt with this nose properly. So I'm going to look at that. I've got a Derwent colored pencil. It's a white one. I'm just going to see if I can add more whites into this portrait. A lot of the colored pencils I use battle to cover mixed media, and I find this one is quite effective. So this is probably the best one I've found. I've got all sorts of brands, and this one really does cover quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to have to use something that's a little bit stronger in that area. And like I said earlier, don't worry if you haven't got this Posca. You can always mix up some paint, do what I'm doing. It just is faster when I'm demonstrating to work with paint that's already mixed as such. What I did off camera is add a little bit of drawing into this eye and a little bit of drawing into this nose just with the jelly roll. I'm just trying to get some of those whites back, and in exactly the way that I'm doing now. So just putting some white down and smudging it with my finger. What I did as well is I put another layer of the gritty gesso down, and yeah, just because I just thought that it would make it easier to draw on the surface. And it has made it easier, but the surface does feel a bit like I'm drawing on sandpaper. But the materials are definitely adhering to the surface really, really well. I didn't realize how difficult this little girl would be to draw. She's not an easy subject. You can see the texture, I think, a little bit more at the top here. But very rough. Still haven't resolved this mouth yet, so I really need to get that going. And this image looks a little bit dull, but you'll see that when I tilt my artwork, it's a lot more dramatic. So it's just the reflections from my lights. Quite interesting that. I'm going to put it down. And I think I'm going to work into the values with a colored pencil. I'm just going to put more of this acrylic down from the Posca. Colored pencil is quite nice for creating very soft, gentle shifts in value. It looks like I've made the chin too high, so I might have to drop that down. This nose is quite tricky. I keep moving everything down, but anyway, it's okay. And this is what drawing's about, constantly adjusting and looking. And I'm feeling a bit happy about this face. Her eyes are still a little bit big, so I think I need to make that a little bit smaller. Going in with this pen again. It seems like everything's gone quiet, even me. I can normally talk constantly through drawing sessions because I'm so used to speaking to kids non-stop during the day. But it is wonderful to just sit and draw in silence. And you can see the grittiness of the gesso on the surface when I'm rubbing this lightly over the surface. It looks a lot different when I tilt it. Still think this eye is a little bit big, but I might just leave it. I think that bottom lip needs to be a bit wider. I think I've really got to deal with that area. My fingers are so dirty, I think they're probably smudging into the surface. I've just checked the messages, and it seems like there's a whole lot of protest going on in our city. So teachers are battling to get to school. I don't have to go into school today. Friday is normally my painting day, so I've got a special contract that allows me to take summer Friday off, and I've used this Friday to just complete this drawing. Our election day is next Wednesday, and I'd imagine that the protests are just going to get more and more as we move towards voting. I used to live maybe about 20 minutes away from the school where I work, and at times it just became crazy. I'd get stuck in traffic and it would take more than an hour to get home or to work. And I just decided to move. So I sold my house, and I'm renting at the moment. And the area that I'm living in now is quite an expensive area, so rental is very expensive. But it has made such a difference to my life because I'm no longer sitting in crazy traffic. And I gain a little bit of time. So each day I could be gaining at least an hour, if not 2 hours. And I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of salary, well, not a little bit, a lot of salary, just so that I can actually gain more time and then not have the stress of the traffic in the mornings. And I think I'm getting to the stage where I'm going to call this finished. I think I'm just going to maybe put some little eyelashes on and maybe a little bit of detail into those lips. Side of the jaw doesn't look right. No, I think I made it too wide. I think that's looking a little bit better. I do love this brush. This is a Pentel brush pen, and it makes beautiful marks. But it is just water soluble. So what I tend to do is, if I'm not sure what I'm going to put over the top, I'll work with it and then I'll put a bit of fixative on it. But it can give you these beautiful flowy lines. It is just very dark. Okay, and I think I'm forgetting the little eyelashes. So just a few little random marks. And on this side as well. I'm not sure about this line at the bottom. There's just something about it that's not appealing. It maybe just needs to be made a little bit softer. Okay, I think I'm almost there. I think I'm going to stop there. So I'm just going to tilt this so that you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to leave this portrait as this.